Good afternoon, everybody. It's been a long time since I've done a YouTube video, so I thought I would start with one highly requested by the clients. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name's Charles Linden. I was born in Worcestershire in 1968, and in 1972 it became apparent that I had developed an anxiety condition. At the time, it was a kind of eating disorder that manifested as health anxiety and OCD. So I would sieve food through my teeth. I would question everything that I was eating. I would have people. Um, I would feel vulnerable if I was away from people I care about. School was a nightmare. I was having panic attacks. I felt very phobic. I felt very self-conscious. And I think probably until I got to about 14, I felt like that pretty much most of the time. And I think this is the predominant experience of most anxious youngsters. Obviously, since lockdown, we've helped tens of thousands of people to get through the anxiety that's been activated by the COVID event, as I call it. But we've also helped a lot of people that were already clients, about 22,000 at the time, to get through these 2 years, the 2 years through lockdown and the pandemic. It was a living nightmare. But not only has it shown us that people's frailties and vulnerabilities and their fear levels can be manipulated tactically through propaganda, but it's also shown us two other things that are not spoken about very much. In fact, I think I'm probably the only person that speaks about them. And that is that those people who are predisposed, because not everybody can suffer from an anxiety condition. Let me first say that. I know it's all very well for psychology and psychiatry to pontificate and to theorize and use supposition to come up with the fact that anybody can suffer from anxiety. It's not true. There are a specific group of people in society born with the genetic predisposition to suffering. Outside of that group, those people cannot suffer. The only people that can suffer are the people with that predisposition. But you see, psychology, psychiatry, and medicine doesn't understand what that predisposition is. So they start on the back foot, and everything that they then provide is offered on the basis of pseudoscience and misinformation. So if you're predisposed and something activates the first elevated fear levels that give rise to your anxiety disorder, whether that's panic or agoraphobia or OCD or health anxiety or eating disorders or any other form of anxiety condition. Notice I said anxiety condition and not disorder, because anxiety is a disorder. So what you've got is fear disorder, and that manifests in many, many ways, including those things I just mentioned. But if you have that predisposition and you are treated to a catalyst, whether that's a car crash or somebody dying or any other kind of, in inverted commas, traumatic experience, it can activate fear response. Now, in those people that don't have the predisposition to suffering from anxiety, their fear response goes back to normal after the threat has subsided. For those people with the predisposition, they get stuck in anxiety. In other words, fear disorder, where fear is happening when it's not needed, when it isn't being activated by a real catalyst, so it's perpetuated by the disorder itself, if you like. So, during lockdown, during the pandemic, during the COVID experience, there were a lot of people that were waiting in the wings to be activated. Those people predisposed that hadn't yet been activated were activated. In addition, those people that already suffered had their anxiety levels increased. Some of them had it decreased, in fairness, by experiences and circumstances. But most people with anxiety had elevated anxiety all through COVID, not only because COVID itself was being pitched as this killer disease that was going to wipe out humanity, which is fear-provoking in itself and therefore anxiety-provoking in those people with anxiety. But also because there was so much uncertainty, so much misinformation. Should I or shouldn't I? What should I do to be right? Who should I protect? Should I protect myself? Should I protect others? Should I, stay away from other people? Should I go and visit my sick relatives? Should I fly to another country? And in order to fly to another country or to visit my sick relatives or do anything else, should I get vaccinated? I mean, the whole thing gave rise. I mean, now it's starting to come out, certainly in the UK. The whole thing was orchestrated by people who either A, didn't understand it themselves and therefore gave bad information, or B, understood it but therefore also gave bad information. But either way, people got bad information. But what's happened now is you've got this massive tsunami of anxiety suffering that is happening globally. And it is massively more influential than anything else. It is destroying lives, it's destroying careers, it's destroying people's educational pathways, it's forcing 4-year-olds to self-harm and small children to have panic disorder, agoraphobia, monophobia, school phobia, health anxiety, eating disorders. And then, of course, they're experiencing, digestive upsets like what would be described as IBS, which is anxiety-related gastrointestinal disruption. They're having things like derealization and depersonalization. They've got pure O, a form of OCD. I didn't make these names up, by the way. A form of OCD that focuses in on particular issues. For example, you've got POCD, where people with anxiety say, am I a paedophile? What if I'm a paedophile? HOCD, so people that are straight might think, what if I'm gay? People that are gay might think, what if I'm straight? Or some other subcategory of sexuality. People who are religious might think, what if there's no God? People who are very religious might say, what if there is no God? And so on. So it always goes to the opposite of what people believe or their core truth. Now, I think we can all sit back as adults and look at what's going on in the world and kind of identify with some of those things, whether it's to do with questioning whether you might die instantly or whether you might have another panic attack, or whether you might question whether the germs are going to give you an illness, or whether you're going to vomit, or whether you're going to pass out, or whether you are in fact a male or a female, or whether you are gay or straight, or whether you are religious or not religious, or whether you're a paedophile or not. Regardless of the subject matter, the internal mechanism that creates those thoughts is exactly the same. And it's only psychology, psychiatry, and medicine who don't understand the true nature of those conditions that get it so horribly wrong and end up misdiagnosing, mistreating, misadvising, and causing people to have exacerbated experiences of fear disorder. It's unnecessary. And if people would just listen to the truth, they would not only understand what they're suffering from and therefore have their anxiety dramatically decrease, because what you understand you can't be scared of. But in addition to that, they would be able to understand that the reverse engineered solution off the basis of absolute science and psychophysiology and physiology, it can't fail. It's like exercising and expecting yourself not to get any fitter. It's just not going to happen. Even at a low level, if you go on a treadmill every day, you're going to get fitter. You can't help it. Your body will respond by creating fitness. Similarly, if you drink water, you're going to cure thirst. It can't work any other way. Now, I know there'll be some people out there saying, oh, there are people, Charles, who eat and get thinner, that drink and get thirstier, there are always anomalies, but they are usually due to endocrine conditions or genetic disorder of some kind. But putting those aside, because I have seen very few of those over the 26 years I've been doing this, and certainly over my 55 years of life, putting those aside, the rules are the rules. It's either A or B, 1 or 0. That's the way the world works. There is no grey. Somebody was talking on the radio this morning. It was Richard Tice, actually, on Talk Radio, and I find it so interesting when people get it right. There's a guy on and he was talking about the science. We all follow the science. We've heard this so much. The science. What is the science? Well, science is an area of study, if you like. Science gives you the ability to test, and the testing leads to conclusion, and the conclusion is fact. So if you test something and you conclusively 100% discover the truth at the end of it, that it becomes fact. The science is what you apply to questions in order to find the truth. So there was never there was always a science, but it was elusive. We follow the science. What science? Well, the science of the data. Well, the data's wrong. The data's flawed. So that's not science, that's data. So you need to follow the data and get the science. And obviously where we are now with everything, especially over the last 3 years, is people are starting to understand the difference between a treatment model or something that is used to solve a particular problem doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to success. And therein lies the problem. Mindfulness, CBT, DBT, NLP, EFT, EMDR, classical counselling psychotherapy, psychiatry, chemicals used in medicine, all for the treatment of anxiety. All of those things used for the treatment of anxiety and fear-related conditions will fail. Why is that? Because drinking water to get fitter fails. Because eating cake to get thinner fails. Because anything that has a fixed activation response has to be activated by whatever the catalyst is. You cannot run on a treadmill every day and get more unfit. You will get fitter. That's the way it works. Unchangeable. That's the nature of the human body. That's science. That's fact. We need facts. And the fact is, to make it simple, fear disorders are not emotional disorders, because fear isn't an emotion. I'm not going to go into the psychophysiology of that right now, because I don't feel I need to, if you trust me. But fear is not an emotion. Happiness, sadness, jealousy, those are emotions. They're generated in the synapses in the brain. They're generated by chemical and electrical impulses in the brain, or activation in the brain. But fear isn't activated in the brain. It isn't generated in the brain. The chemicals implicated in fear response are not in the brain. And so therefore it's not an emotion any more than diabetes is an emotional disorder, because that doesn't happen in the brain either. And that implicates the endocrine system in exactly the same way as a fear disorder. So if you want to recover from an anxiety condition, you can relax as much as you like, but relaxation was never the opposite of fear. You can meditate, but again, it's not going to undo those deep neurological responses and physiological responses that are responsible for your fear disorder. You can talk about it, you can think about it, you can even tap yourself into oblivion. It is not going to change the things that need changing in order to recover from an anxiety condition. Fact, that is science. You can do EMDR, eye movement desensitization. I mean, I'm sorry for laughing, but it just makes me laugh that anybody would ever have the gall to present that as a scientific solution, or any of these other things as a scientific solution to something that is unassociated with absolutely everything that those things do. It's not just laughable, it's terrifying and sad, because there are now probably billions of people on this planet who suffer from fear disorder. Not millions, billions, I would say now. I think it's at least 6 times as many people from my local experience of it over the last 3 years. And when I say local, I mean the incoming traffic to our organisation that's been around for 26 years shows me that there's a 6 times increase in fear disorder suffering. And it doesn't need to be that way. You don't need lengthy counselling and psychotherapy, or any kind of therapy for that matter. You don't need to talk about it, think about it, rate it, keep anxiety diaries. You don't need to tap yourself or meditate or relax. What you need is science, and science that works, because it's science. That's what everybody needs. You can ignore that fact as long as you like, but the point is, if you want to recover, you have to use science. And there are people who, with the absence of any kind of guidance with regard to that science, have recovered. I know people that have recovered, just spontaneously recovered. And they go, oh, I've recovered, it's just gone. No, it hasn't just gone. You did what your brain and body needed for yourself to recover. And you did it, okay, albeit without knowing that you were doing it, but you did it, and you did it effectively, and your anxiety condition faded away. Why? Because that was the science of it. All we've done for 26 years is show people the science of anxiety, of OCD, of panic disorder, agoraphobia, monophobia, health anxiety, eating disorders, self-harming, and all those associated conditions. We've shown them the science, which immediately drops their fear levels, because, like I said earlier, what you understand you can't fear. And then we show them how to systematically and without fail do those things which create recovery. And without fail, they recover. Without any exception at all, they recover from everything. And of course, we have a lot of people come to us and say, oh, I've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, or anxiety with depression, or I've got PTSD with blah, 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 or I've got advanced OCD, or some other made up nonsense that somebody's come up with. But the truth is, if anybody has an anxiety condition, they've got OCD. Everybody with anxiety has OCD, because anxiety is OCD. It's obsessive, it's compulsive, and it's disordered. The obsession could be anything. Like I said earlier, it could be sexuality, it could be going up and down steps, it could be traveling from home, it could be, worrying about your relationship or about your sexuality, like I said. But it could also, that is obsession, that is your anxious focus. The compulsion is the response you take to minimize the threat associated with that particular obsessive thought. And it's disorder. All we need to do, and all we've been doing for 26 years is, and my team are psychologists and psychotherapists, by the way. These aren't stupid people. These are true recovery specialists who, without exception, create recovery because they use the science. And they're incredible at doing it. All we need to do is instruct somebody, show them how to do it, and then support them in doing it. And, I've got people on the website that literally did this for half a day, young people, albeit usually, that just did it for half a day and completely recovered in half a day. Why? Because recovery, you think about it, fear can turn on and off in a nanosecond. If you're driving down a road and a dog runs out in front of the car, you don't think, oh, look, a dog, I think I better go into fear response and put my foot on the pedal. No, your foot's on the pedal. Why? Because it's autonomic, without conscious thought. Which is why, of course, things like the commonly used talking therapies fail. Because you can't think your way out of something. You can't change your thoughts to change your emotional responses. It's idiotic to assume that you can. It just isn't the way the brain and body work. And I know there'll be people coming onto this video and slagging me off and saying all sorts of awful things. But ultimately, we not only have we had what we do tested as psychoeducation by the NHS and by other organisations around the world, including people like Capita and other health organisations, and they've demonstrated through their testing that what we do works without exception. By the way, compliance, doing it, creates recovery without exception, and nothing else does that, which is exactly the findings they found. But also, we've been around for 26 years. We've helped 427,000, or more than that, I think, 427,000 plus people since we started. And when you look at the thousands of reviews and testimonials we've got, and pitch it against the handful of naysayers who use nonsense and make-believe to try and discredit us, I think I'm doing all right. I'm pretty safe in the knowledge that those people are doing it because they hate me, not because they hate the outcomes of the people that are using the programs. But what disturbs me most about anybody who says something against anything that potentially helps anybody in any numbers, tapping. I mean, it's just scientific nonsense, but nobody attacks those people. Nobody discredits them for their nonsense. And believe me, it is nonsense. I don't care how much evidence they present for it. It's data-driven statistical lying, because it just isn't physiologically provable to be a treatment methodology. So anybody that thinks that, we are unethical, doing what the brain and body were designed to do and telling people how to do it effectively, like a personal trainer would tell somebody to get fit or build muscle mass. So us doing science is unacceptable to some people, so much so that they will do anything to discredit us, and also contact young people using our program and tell them lies that cause those people so much distress that we then get phone calls saying, oh, this doctor of psychology has contacted saying that blah, 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 the Linden method, Charles Linden, and my child has self-harmed. What do I do? I mean, yeah, but they don't care. So they're doing that for a reason. And the reason is because they know this works. They know that what we do actually produces results. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of what my team have achieved, because it's unique, it's unmatched, and it's wonderful. It saves lives. And of that, I'm very proud and will be till my dying day. If you suffer from an anxiety condition and you're not doing exactly what your brain and body were designed to do in order to overcome that disorder, if you're using medication, tapping yourself, or doing EMDR, or having counselling or psychotherapy or anything else, I can hand on heart state to you that if you look into the science of what you're doing, you will know and find that none of that can help in any way. Yes, it can be reassuring. Yes, they might be very nice. I'm going to have people on here slagging me off. Oh, yeah, but my psychologist is really nice. They may well be lovely people with good intentions. But is the core of what they're doing curing your anxiety condition? And the answer is no. Unless they're doing what your brain and body were designed to do, the answer is no. I want every person on this planet to get access to what it is that will not only cure them of their anxiety conditions, but also, if we're fast enough, prevent a physiological, neurological, genetic catastrophe. And I mean that. There will be people in the next generation, probably, well, no, definitely, who are born not anxious, but born with a preset fear level much, much higher than mine or yours was at your birth. That's not that they're born anxious. They will be born with normal fear response for them, but it plays out as anxiety as we recognize it because they have been programmed to be more scared genetically through epigenetics. And I am telling you, this is already happening. I'm seeing it already with young children, 1 and 2-year-olds that are a mess because their parents who had anxiety and were activated during lockdown gave birth to a child that had been epigenetically changed to be fearful, more fearful than it should be. It's catastrophic, it's horrific, for me, it's terrifying. It's my worst nightmare come true. And all because of misinformation and pseudoscience. Lots of love to everybody. I'll get back to on the comments on this video. Please get in touch if you want to recover from your anxiety condition. But truth is truth. Science is science. One problem, one solution. Take care, everybody. Be good.